Hello and welcome back to the Retrospective of Horror. Today, we're diving into something darker than usual, one of the most infamous films in cinematic history.
Faces of Death.
If you've never heard of it, buckle up, because this is going to be one wild ride. And if you have, well, you know exactly what we're about to get into. Released in 1978, Faces of Death is a film that has haunted the nightmares of generations. This film was marketed as a documentary that showed real footage of death and violence. The tagline? Banned in 46 countries. The movie contains approximately 60% of real scenes, mixed in with special effects sequences. The real footage is mostly archival, from places such as news stations, medical research, and also old war footage. But is it as horrifying as its reputation suggests? Or is there more to the story? Let's find out. Faces of Death was written and directed by John Alan Swartz, under the pseudonyms Conan Lecilier and Alan Black, to which he wanted to depict very real deaths, but with an analytical view rather than a purely exploitative purpose. But the film's inclusion of fake scenes, which were recreated by special effects artist Douglas White, have put the film under scrutiny. With these faked sequences, editor Glenn Turner stated that the initial version of the movie consisted of gruesome newsreel footage that was bought and compiled, but the lack of narrative made it very difficult to watch, which led to the decision to recreate some of the footage instead. Watching the film, you do get the sense that the idea was to shock the audience with scenes of death and disaster, and to blend the line between reality and fiction. And it worked. People were terrified of this film. Faces of Death is part of a trend that was happening during the 70s and going into the 80s, which were shockumentaries. Films that purported to show real, often graphic footage, were becoming very popular, but Faces of Death stood out because it became a cult phenomenon. With the film having the tagline, banned in 46 countries, this made it stand out amongst some of the films released during this period. The controversy only added more fuel to the film's popularity. The more it was banned, the more people wanted to see it, and it became this underground sensation. A forbidden fruit of the horror movie landscape, so to speak. Faces of Death didn't just fade into obscurity like many other shockumentaries of this type. The film sparked massive controversy. It was banned in multiple countries, and people debated whether it was ethical or even legal to watch such material. Some called it a snuff film, others said it was a hoax. Critics were divided. Some praised the film for its daring and violent content, while others condemned it as exploitative trash. Meanwhile, psychologists were actually warning people about the potential impact of such graphic content on viewers, particularly on younger minds. This was the mindset of many people here in the UK when the film was prosecuted and put on the Video Nasty list. They said it violated the Obscene Publications Act of 1959. However, this only added even more fuel to the already burning bright fire, and the success of the film only grew. In the United States in 1986, a 14-year-old boy named Rod Matthews lured a classmate into the woods and, with the use of a baseball bat, took his life. When he was asked by law enforcement why did he do it, he replied with, "Just for the heck of it," and that he got the idea after watching Faces of Death, and that he wanted to know what it felt like to take a life. Ron Matthews is currently serving a life sentence, with him being denied parole on 4 previous occasions. Faces of Death left a lasting impact on the horror genre and how we consume media. It paved the way for other shockumentaries and found footage films, and it also influenced a generation of filmmakers who were willing to push the boundaries of what was acceptable on screen. The film also paved the way for the extreme horror violence that would come very often in the 80s. Today, the internet is filled with reaction videos and horror content that pushes boundaries, but Faces of Death was a precursor to all of that. It showed that there was a market for extreme content, and it forced us to confront our own morbid curiosity. Many sequels and compilations were released in the following 2 decades. These didn't have the same success though as its predecessor, but still managed to find an audience in the cult movie landscape. Faces of Death is a piece of film history that continues to be discussed and debated. It is a reminder of how far some will go to shock and provoke, and how audiences in turn respond to that provocation. In 2021, Legendary Entertainment, the company behind the Dark Knight trilogy, 300, and many other blockbusters, bought the rights to the series, and the remake is actually set for release next year in 2025. Now the question I have for you is Faces of Death a horror classic, or just a cheap attempt to cash in on shock value? Personally, I think it was just a cheap attempt to cash in on it. They saw an opening in the market and they dived in first. Let me know in the comments below. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of horror. Let me know in the comments what you think, and what horror films you'd like me to cover next. Until next time, stay critical, stay scared. You can catch our series of retrospectives here.